Please be seated. In 1986, two Israeli brothers were walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Lake of Gennesaret. Because of the drought, the water level of the lake was low. To their surprise, the brothers happened on the remains of a boat buried in the mud of the newly exposed beach. They reported their discovery to the authorities, who sent out a team of archaeologists to investigate. After the boat was excavated and carbon dated, the archaeologists concluded that it was the kind of fishing boat used in the 1st century. If we divide the nave into quarters, this ancient Galilee boat would fit into one of those quarters. Sailboats of this size would accommodate a 5-member crew and a catch of 600 pounds to a ton of fish. This would be the kind of boat that Peter and his partners in his fishing business would have owned. In today's gospel, Jesus calls these fishermen to be his first disciples. According to Luke, Jesus is teaching in synagogues throughout Galilee. News about him spreads. He comes to Capernaum, Peter's hometown, and teaches in the synagogue there. When Jesus leaves the synagogue, he goes to Peter's house. Peter's mother-in-law has a high fever, and Jesus heals her. That evening, people bring the sick and demon-possessed to Jesus, and he heals them. The people don't want Jesus to leave, but he tells them, I must preach the good news of the kingdom of God to other towns also, because that is why I was sent. So he keeps on preaching in the synagogues of Galilee. But in our gospel this morning, Jesus isn't in a synagogue with a hushed crowd listening to a rabbi interpret the Hebrew scriptures. Instead, he's standing beside the Sea of Galilee with a crowd pressing in on him. People have come to him to hear the word of God. Jesus recognizes Peter in his boat, cleaning his nets after a long, unsuccessful night fishing. Jesus climbs in and asks Peter to pull out a little way from the shore so he can teach the crowds from the boat. After Jesus had miraculously healed Peter's mother-in-law, how could Peter refuse Jesus' request? After Jesus finishes speaking, he tells Peter, pull out into the deep water and let down your nets for a catch. Imagine Peter's voice when he answers Jesus. Do you hear exasperation or resignation or something else? Master, my crew and I have worked hard all night long, fishing near the shore because that's the best time and the best place to catch fish. And we came home empty-handed. Now you tell me to fish during the day in the deep water. Okay, because you say so, I'll let down my net. And Peter and his crew make the catch of a lifetime. They catch so many fish that their nets begin to burst. Peter signals his partners in the other boat to come and help, and they fill both boats with fish. It must have been a haul of 2 tons or more. Peter and his crew and his partners in the other boat are amazed at the catch of fish. Peter knows these waters. Peter knows that his jackpot haul of fish shouldn't have happened. But it did, and it was directed by Jesus. Only God has that kind of power. To Peter, Jesus is no longer master, but Lord. After experiencing this miracle, Peter senses that he is in the presence of the divine. He falls at Jesus' knees. Go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man. But Jesus reassures Peter. Don't be afraid. From now on, you will be catching people. Jesus calls Peter and his partners to a new vocation, spreading the good news of God's although Peter and his partners have just hit the mother lode of their fishing careers, they leave the boatloads of fish behind to go and follow Jesus. Our presiding bishop, Michael Curry, tells about an encounter he had when he was the Bishop of North Carolina. He went to a coffee shop a few blocks from the diocesan offices in Raleigh. While he was in line, he started a conversation with a gentleman who turned out to be a Mennonite pastor. The pastor had been sent to Raleigh to organize a church in the community, on the streets, without walls. As they were talking, the pastor said something that the presiding bishop hasn't forgotten. The pastor said the Mennonite community asked him to do this because they believed that in the environment in which we live now, the church can no longer wait for the congregation to come to it. The church must go where the congregation is. And Bishop Curry's message to us is, now is our time to go. To go into the world to share the good news of God and Jesus Christ. To go into the world and help to be agents and instruments of God's reconciliation. To go into the world, let the world know that there is a God who loves us, a God who will not let us go, and that love can set us all free. Where will we go? Where are we called to fish? Where is our deep water? It isn't in this building. Jesus left the synagogue and went to where the people were. That's what the Mennonite pastor did. And that's what we are supposed to do. To leave the church, our mission base, and to go where the people are. Deacons dismiss congregations each Sunday to go forth in the name of Christ, to go in peace, to love and serve the Lord, to go forth into the world rejoicing in the power of the Spirit. We are to bear witness to Jesus wherever we may be. Our deep water is where we live, where we go to school, where we work, anywhere that we meet other people. Jesus' word to Peter is his word to us. Don't be afraid. Jesus is directing the catch. This is the Jesus movement, and we are the Episcopal branch of Jesus' movement in the world. Jesus wants our nets to be bursting and our boats